Good morning. Hi, you're here again with Grandma Ingrid and Nicole. We decided we want to come back today and show you guys how to make a quick, easy pasta dish that you should have everything you need at home to make this pasta. And then we're going to show you how to make a loaf bread. So you can have bread to go with your pasta, make some garlic bread on it, or you can use it for sandwiches and toasting breads. It's a really easy, quick bread. It's a yeasted bread, so it takes no time at all. So I'm going to start with that one first. What you're going to do is you have your all-purpose flour. Now your all-purpose flour, it can tend to settle in your jar, so you want to fluff it up a little bit. And you're going to use another tool to scoop it into your cup, and you're going to scrape it off. It's called the scoop and scrape method. So you're going to put 3 cups of flour in a bowl. And this is going to give you that light, fluffy bread that you want, so it's not all dense and hard as a rock, because nobody likes that kind of bread. So we got our 3 cups of flour in our bowl. I'm then going to add a tablespoon of sugar. Mom, can you give me some sugar? And the sugar is not going to make a sweet bread. It's just going to help it brown up a little bit. And I'm going to do my salt here.
It helps activate your yeast as well.
I'm going to do a teaspoon and a half of salt. And this is just kosher salt. You can use whatever salt you have in your house. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to add my yeast, which is a tablespoon of yeast. And this is just a self-rising or instant yeast that's going to activate really fast. So I'm going to put that in.
The advantage of using an instant yeast, but you can use the regular, is you don't have to bloom it. And blooming is just activating it ahead of time.
And this is some baking soda. Goes right in there. Now what you want to do is you want to give this a little stir, a little whisk, so all your dry ingredients are mixed in together. You don't want them to be all in one clump or anything like that. And then I'm going to get my wet ingredients together, which I have 1 cup of milk. You can use plant-based milk if that's all the milk you have. The milk will help it rise, and it once again will help feed that yeast. And then I have my oil here. And I have my 1/4 cup of water. It's just going to go in there. And now what you're going to do is Grandma's going to put the dry ingredients in her mixer. I'm just going to walk over to the microwave and heat this for 1 minute.
Having that milk warm helps to activate the yeast. Because when you bloom yeast, you put it in warm water. So again, I'm just going to mix that just a little bit. I do have the dough hook on. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can do this by hand. You always have to knead it a little bit. Hope you can hear over the mixer. I'm going to turn that off until she brings the wet. And we're going to just combine the wet and the dry. And she's just heating that up. And this whole process just takes just a few minutes, as you're going to see. And while she's doing that, I am going to get the pan ready. I just have a typical loaf pan here. And I'm just going to take and I am going to spray my loaf pan so my bread comes out. I take a piece of handy wrap and put on top of it, and I just spray. Boom, done. Then I'm going to put my bread dough in there and just loosely put my handy wrap. I don't want it tucked in or anything because I want my bread to be able to rise. So it's sitting there. I'm going to do it upside down so it doesn't stick. So now we're going to put in our wet into our dry. And this is just warmed a little bit. You don't want it hot.
Now what this is going to do is that dough hook's going to start kneading your dry ingredients and your wet ingredients together, so you don't have to knead it on the counter. Now, like Grandma said, if you don't have a stand mixer, you don't have anything like that, you'll just have to knead it on the counter for like 5 minutes. Not very long, but just enough to get it all incorporated. You want to make sure there's no dry pieces left, and you're going to start mixing it all together. And when you use a dough hook, you never want to turn it above a 2 on your stand mixer, because then it's not actually kneading it. It's just being violent and whirling it around in circles. So you want to make sure that you don't overmix it, but you don't want to undermix it. You want it all incorporated.
So I do this for about a minute, minute and a half. Once it's all, you can tell it's all coming together. And so you're just gonna put that until it's, like I say, all good, come together, and put it on for about, I'm gonna leave it for another 30 seconds or so.
And an extra step you can do too with your pan is you can add some cornmeal on the bottom of your pan, and it will help with some of the sticking and the browning of it. Now, if you don't have cornmeal, don't fret. You don't have to add it to your pan. If you have semolina, you can use that. If you have yellow cornmeal, you can use that, but you don't have to add any of it. A lot of times we do it just for that extra measure so it doesn't stick in our pan, because we want to pop it out and make it a nice slicing loaf.
And it also helps brown up the bottom of that just a little bit. Okay, I think this is done. We're gonna take this out. And you can see, it just comes right off. And this is a bowl scraper that we can't live without. Use it for everything. And I'm just gonna pick up this bowl of dough, maybe, and just make a little, almost like a loaf here in my pan. I'm gonna turn this over so that the sprayed side is down. And there we go. Now we're gonna let it sit. It'll take about 20 minutes or so to rise.
You want to set it in a real warm place of your house. We happen to set ours above our fireplace because it's nice and toasty. So this has been sitting for 20 minutes. You can see it rises above the pan, and that's when you know it's ready to go. You're gonna loosely or lightly, carefully uncover it because you don't want to make it fall. You want that nice dome on your bread. And we're gonna place this in the oven for 22 minutes, and it's gonna come out perfect. So I'm gonna go put this in Grandma's oven. Just gonna put it right there. You don't want to put it way close up because you don't want it to stick to the top of your oven. So you want to put it right in the middle so it has room to grow and cook in there. And always set your timer because us busy moms can never remember how long we actually put things in the oven for. So I'm gonna do 22 minutes, hit start, and I don't usually turn the bread. It turns and cooks evenly. It's perfect in there. So while that's baking, I'm going to show you the pasta. So you can see this meal can be done in 22 minutes. Or a little bit more. I guess it took me about 2 minutes to stir that all in together. So what I'm going to do is we're going to show you how to make a one-pot pasta. And that is where you put everything into one pot. We don't want to do extra dishes, do we? So we're going to put it all in one pot and cook the noodles, the sauce, everything at one time so we can have a quick meal ready to go. So I'm going to take one onion. Now I want to show you this. This onion has got some sprouts on it. Normally, I wouldn't use this onion. I would save it for the garden and grow it in the garden. But because right now I'm not making trips to the store, I'm going to use my onion. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just going to slice it, and it's called from pole to pole. This would be, right here would be equator, like the equator of the globe. This is pole to pole, north and south pole. You're going to slice it like that because I want to make, it's called julienne, and it's going to be long strips of onions. Now, if you don't have fresh onions, don't worry. You can use onion powder, garlic powder. If you don't have the fresh stuff, you can have, if you have chopped onions in your spice rack, you can use whatever you have. Say your family doesn't like onions. Don't use them. Leave them out. It's not going to make or break your dish, okay?
If you have mushrooms that are going bad and you want to use them, put them in. You can make this dish your own. It's going to become your family's favorite.
So you see I have my pole to pole. I'm just going to make thin little slices. And I try and go thin, but it doesn't have to be perfect. But you want them to cook evenly in the pot, so you want a thin little slice. And I'm going to turn this one to the side. And I've got one half done, and I've got the other half to go. Now, I do want to give you a little tip or trick. So you saw how it got down here to the end and it's kind of hard to cut. You could turn it on the side. Or if that freaks you out because you don't want to get the knife that close to your hand, you can save that little hunk. You see how I have these ends over here that I haven't cut all the way to the end of? You can save those, put those in your freezer, and use them in your next batch of soup you're making your broth with, and it just will add that much more flavor. Don't waste all your stuff. You can use it later in a soup, so just freeze it and you can have stuff ready to go in your freezer. I'm going to take 4 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to just snip off that end there. And then I'm going to slice those thin. Now, if once again, like I said, if you don't have fresh garlic, you can use garlic powder, garlic salt. You just want to make sure if you use garlic salt, you cut down on the amount of salt before you add it in. You're just going to thinly slice those. If you would rather have them crushed in there, you don't want a whole sliver of garlic, you can crush them. It's all personal preference. I like to have the little slice in there. All right, I have my slices of garlic, my onions. I have here my pepper flakes.
And if you don't like heat, then don't put the pepper flakes
Right.
in.
I have my oregano. I'm going to get my basil. If you don't have fresh basil, you can use dried basil.
Ruby, can you bring me the herbs that you picked for me, please? If you have anything growing in your yard that you might want to put in instead, if you don't have the fresh basil, maybe you have a little bit of chives. Ruby went out and got us some fresh herbs. We have rosemary, we have thyme. All by yourself. We have some sage here. We have some chives. You can chop up and put anything in that you have and use that. Just make it your own. Just add the flavors.
When I do my basil, I put all the leaves together and I roll them together, and I just chop them real thin like this, and then I have those little strips, and you don't have to worry about doing one at a time. Saves you time. We all want to save some time. All right, so I have all my little ingredients here. Mom, can you get me 2 tablespoons of olive oil? I think I put it over there. But we're going to just walk right over to my pot so I can show you it literally is a one-pot wonder. So I'm going to dump my onions, garlic, basil, pepper flakes, oregano. I'm going to dump my noodles, and you want like a pound of noodles. It can be spaghetti noodles, fettuccine noodles, linguine noodles. These happen to be linguine. It can be penne, rotini. It can be any shape, size of noodle. I just recommend doing all of one kind so it cooks evenly. But we're just going to throw those in there. This is just canned diced tomatoes. Now, if you don't have diced tomatoes, say you have tomato sauce, use that. If you have salsa and you don't have tomatoes, use that. Use whatever tomato product you have. If you have fresh tomatoes, you can use those. It really does not have to be these diced ones. We just happen to have diced, so we're going to use those. I'm then going to pour my chicken stock in here. Now, if you have chicken broth that is in the box or the can, you can use that. You're just going to pour that right over your pasta and your tomatoes, and then you're going to drizzle that olive oil right over top all of it. And then you're going to turn your heat on, and you want to bring this up to a boil. Come on. Bring it up to a boil, covered. And once it starts boiling, you're going to then turn it down just a little bit, keep it boiling, but turn it down, and you're going to stir it around every 2 minutes, and you're going to cook it for about 14 minutes. And after 14 minutes, you should have this delicious pasta dish. And you'll see there's a little bit of sauce on the bottom, but most of it cooks out. But look at this delicious pasta. So I'm just going to serve it up to my family. And have a delicious pasta. And sometimes I like to finish mine off with just a little basil. Or Parmesan cheese. If you have Parmesan cheese or Parmigiano Reggiano, you can just put that right on top. And you have a delicious pasta to go with our delicious hot bread that is out of the oven. right there.
Get a knife.
We'll get a knife, we'll slice this bread up. Now you can see it came right out of the pan.
And it's hot.
And it's hot. And I will be honest with you, we didn't put cornmeal in the bottom of this pan and it came right out. So you don't have to have the cornmeal. It just adds a little bit of extra color to it. Now you want to let your bread cool just a little bit before you cut it, or else it'll mush sometimes.
If you cut it in the middle, then you can put it back together and it will last longer. Around here it's not going to last very long anyway, but nice, fresh, hot bread is wonderful.
And we have some homemade butter here that we made in our video yesterday. Mom?
Monday.
We're gonna butter our bread. And we have hot, delicious bread. And if you let this cool a little bit more, it won't tear. It's just because the bread's still hot. So, bon appetit. Make healthy, happy food for your family during this time. We all need a little love. So we're hoping to come see you guys and make more videos. So if you have any suggestions on things you have in your pantry that you would like us to show you how to use and to cook, please add them to the comments or message us, and we will be happy to make a video to show you how to use up that food that you have in your pantry and your freezers.
Or if you have any questions about what we just did, because we went so fast, just ask your questions and we'll get back to you.
We love you all. Stay healthy and happy.
Have a great
day.